Hey folks, welcome back. I want to say something here about foraging, alright? Now, even though I used to teach a class years ago, and it was a pretty popular class, I want to stress that you need to do your own research. If you're not going to do your own research and you are going to haphazardly go out and collect what you think that you've seen on here, I'm not going to be responsible for you misusing it, misidentifying it, prepare it wrong, anything like that, alright? So it's very important that you do your own information. I am not going to be responsible. I am going to give you information to the best of my knowledge. I am going to tell you what I do here and what I eat here and how I prepare it here. And if you have an allergic reaction, again, that's not going to be on me, right? So I just want to get that out there and make that very clear. So there's a lot of things out there that are harmless, a lot of things out there that are really good for you, but taste really awful. There are some things out there that are really good for you and taste very good. And there's other things out there that are so good that you can eat out in the wild that people do not even know about, folks. So I would encourage you to do a lot of research and do not believe everything you hear and see on YouTube. Do not believe everything you hear and see on your favorite search engine, alright? Get some books, get some really good books on foraging in your area. And some books are they just tell the basics, just the basics, folks. And that's not enough information. You should get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more books on foraging in your area, because just about one of them will have something a little different to add to it. So I just did that Staghorn sumac video, right? Now that is something that I have I've grown up with it, folks. I've grown up with it, so I know it's across the road on the other side of that wood pile. I know I'm not allergic to it. I know I can drink as much as I want and it does not affect me. Staghorn sumac is a diuretic, though, just to let you know. I forgot to mention that in my other video. So, but there's a lot of food out there that doesn't look edible that are. I will not be doing any mushroom videos whatsoever, folks. There's only a handful of mushrooms that I bullfrogs are going at it, that I will pick. And I really don't like mushrooms, folks. If you've watched this channel and some of my other videos, you know that I really don't like mushrooms. I will eat a chanterelle mushroom, folks, but one very small meal a year is more than enough. And the chanterelle season here, because it's been so hot and so dry, and I don't think we're going to have a chanterelle season at all because it's a month behind. The nights are getting cooler. So I think chanterelle season is not where it's at this year, right? But I was going to do a video on the jewelweed, and I was going to do a video on the wild raisin. Neither one of those are ready to forage for yet. I keep checking. This time of year here, in the spring is when I forage the most. No, I'll take that back. In the spring, I forage quite a lot. Around garden time, right? You know how that goes. But this time of year, in August, is when I do the most of my foraging from here on out. So the jewelweed will probably be next, and then it will be the wild raisins. And I think I'm gonna probably not be able to do a low bush cranberry video this year because we have a beaver issue in the bog here and the water is really high. Now, for those folks who know how cranberries are harvested, they grow and then they flood the area, and when the cranberries are ripe, they float to the top and they gather them up that way, right? Well, when you live on a peat moss bog where there's all kinds of grass and whatnot, they're just going to sit there and they're going to fall on the grass underneath them, and then you collect them. But in order to do that, you have to pick your way out there to, like on this bog here, I think I know just about where all the low bush cranberries are, and I have figured out a way in a normal season to get out and pick them with rubber boots on so I'm not getting wet. But now that the beaver have made a dam, I think there's 3 dams actually, and the water's so high, I am not going to wade out there in October in that cold water to collect cranberries. This will be, I think, the 4th or 5th year that I have been unable to collect cranberries on this bog. But, you know, in a typical year, cranberries go on sale just before Thanksgiving, right? You can buy, I think it's 3 cups in a bag of like Ocean Spray whole cranberries, and you can buy them for like $2, folks, when it goes on sale around Thanksgiving. So excuse me. So that's what I've been doing. 2 years ago, somebody brought me 2 5-gallon buckets of low bush cranberries, and I was so excited, folks. I made a lot of cranberry juice that year. So things are behind the elderberries. I think I'm going to say goodbye to the elderberries this year. I had that fungus on a lot of those. I pruned them back very heavily, but because we have had minimal rain, they are going to be tough, they're going to be small, and they might not be as sweet as they normally would. So I think this year is not going to be an elderberry bush harvest at all. Now the dewberries are doing very well this year. Matter of fact, the best I've ever seen them. They're plump and they're juicy and they're very sweet. The blackberries are very small, they're very seedy, and they're not very sweet this year. And again, it's because of the drought. Apparently the dewberries like the hot, dry weather, and the blackberries do not. So, but it is what it is. I usually have a lot of raspberries here, wild raspberries, and they were very minimal this year. So some berries are doing good, some berries are not, and that's just the way it is. And so when I do have a good season in my berries, I collect as many berries as I can, and I juice them up, and then I seal them in jars, right? So that's how I do it. So, like 4 years ago, I had such a huge crop of elderberries here that I made several pints of cranberry juice, not cranberry juice, elderberry juice. And the next year I made all kinds of cranberry juice because I had those 2 5-gallon buckets given to me. And then I make blackberry juice, blueberry juice, whatever the season is, folks, whatever the season is. So I would encourage you to do the same. If you have a really good year for berries, put up as much as you can, because the next few years you might not get hardly any, not even worth going after, right? Maybe you can get a few to eat fresh, right? So that's what I've got to say. Do your research, do your research, do your research, and use me as a guide if you would like. Use me as, well, maybe I'll do a little more research on that, and I will make sure that Hippie Chick is telling me correctly. Or maybe she misspoke, maybe she used the wrong word when her intent was to use another word. You just don't know, folks. You just don't know. So that is why it's important to get your resources and you really examine. Get a book with a key, a plant key. So if it says like mint has square stalk, right? Then make sure that plant looks like a mint, but it doesn't have a square stalk, then you don't want to pick it because it's not a mint, right? So you've got to be that careful. You've got to examine the leaves. You've got to turn the leaves over, examine the stalk, examine every single part of that plant according to the plant key, okay? So we don't want anybody getting sick. We don't want anybody dying. We don't want anybody having an allergic reaction. We want foraging to be fun and educational, but you have to be very, very, very careful, all right? So I am going to go in. I am going to kick my boots off. I am going to wash up, and I am going to put my feet up, folks. So y'all have a good day. Hope you're staying busy. I hope you are resting. I hope you are eating good. I hope you keep this up here very sane. I hope you keep your heart pure and help yourself. Help yourself to happiness. Help yourself to happiness, folks. Okay? Thank you.